Hello, Sunday School Scholars. This is Pastor Walter again, and we are back in Galatians. We're still in that fifth chapter. We're going to go down to the latter part of the fifth chapter and the beginning of the sixth chapter. Now, Paul is still in a very intense struggle with the men and women of Galatia. Now, he's trying to get them to see, to understand, to comprehend. It is not necessary for them to return to the legalism of the past. They should walk in the freedom of Jesus Christ. And we covered that last week. Now on down, we see some lists. Paul is just outstanding with his ability to put things in a list in sort of an itemized fashion. And so he begins to share with the people of Galatia and those of us who are gathered here in class today the difference between walking in the Spirit and walking in the flesh. Now, the law only had the ability to chastise us for things that we have done that were contrary to the will of God, but offered no hope, no redemption. The Spirit is different. And one of the lists that we come to today, when Paul tells us to move away from the flesh, and how the flesh is defined, it's that desire, appetite that we naturally have in our spirit to do anything but the right thing, to go against the grain of God. Sin is actually transgressing against the will of God. And so he has a list of despicable, ugly, nasty, mean-spirited things that any of us can be found doing if we don't have Christ in the center of our heart. Now, let me share this with you. This is a principle that I live by. A man or a woman, a boy or a girl, without Jesus Christ in their lives will do anything. Now, this is a hard list. Immorality, rage. You know how you've been shaking your finger at that person at the traffic light ahead of you. You know how you've been pointing up at the sky trying to get them to see the birds flying over using that middle finger of your hand. All that kind of stuff is outside of the will of God. Cheating, defrauding each other, breaking harmony, disunity, division, and this explosive temper. Sometimes we say, well, I just have a bad temper. Now, you're aware of that. Half the work is done. You need to give that bad temper to a very good God. And God can handle that. And then there's another list. The other list is the fruit of the Spirit. Notice that the fruit of the Spirit is not plural. It's not like Walmart. It's not like going to Kroger or to some other grocery store. You can't pick this, that, and the other. Get some grapes and skip the bananas and get an apple and skip the orange and get something else. No, the fruit of the Spirit is a changed life that is moving away from fleshly appetites, all of the stuff that's negative, and moving toward walking in the Spirit. Don't say, I can handle this one, but I can't do the other one. I can love, but I'm not always full of joy. Jesus died for our sin. We can claim victory over each aspect of our fleshliness, our worldliness, our sin. Now finally, as we go into the beginning part of chapter 6, Paul encourages us to walk humbly with God and each other. Restoration and reconciliation is the topic of the first few verses in chapter 6 of Galatians. When someone is in difficulty and they are falling, they're failing, they're not making the mark, sin is missing the mark. And those of us who think we are more spiritual than others, we should go to them and help them, pray for them, and by all means encourage them. Church discipline is encouragement. It's not a verdict, a penalty. Sometimes we feel too good throwing someone out of church. Amen. Sometimes we feel real good chastising someone, shaking our finger in their face. Well, you see how intense Paul has been with the Galatians? That's because he loved them. Don't you also know how intense the love of God has been toward us? Because he cares for and loves us. Restoration and reconciliation is bringing people back together and bringing people back to the Lord. It's not who you can exclude or who you can chastise or who you can badmouth. Okay, now for our time together, I want you to go back to the fruit of the Spirit and go through each one of them and give an example of how you can exemplify the fruit of the Spirit in your life today and all next week. God bless you. You all have a wonderful time in Bible study. You got a lot to go over this morning. I'm going to give you a little extra time to do it. Just love you to pieces. God bless you, and you take care now.